I want to talk to you today about a problem that K-12 schools have you've probably never heard of, but is literally preventing them from evolving and changing the ways that we hope they will. So first, our mission is really to help all schools redesign the student experience. And the key there is all schools, not just progressive schools. And what we found is that there's a bit of a gap in the market. There are a ton of great solutions helping teachers redesign their classrooms, curriculum, assessment, classroom management. But that's not enough to change a whole student experience. And so what we're seeing are new model schools rising up that are changing more than just individual classrooms. But it doesn't answer the question of the 130,000 traditional schools, why are they having a hard time changing? And to understand that, you have to understand that from a principal's point of view, a school is much more complex than simply classrooms. A school is this complex puzzle of logistics pieces trying to figure out how to make all of those resources work with limited time with all the students that they have. And from the principal's standpoint, one of the most challenging things that they face is this thing that almost nobody here has heard of, except if you're a school leader or an administrator, that's called master scheduling. And it literally describes every aspect of the school every year. And if you want a school to change, you have to get through the master schedule. So let me explain what this is, since you've probably not heard much about it. And again, this really gets to the heart of how complex K-12 schools are today. So let's take a typical school with 1,000 students, typical high school. You've got unique mission and academic goals. But of that 1,000 students, you probably didn't know, there were 50 distinct types of students. Students with ELLs and IEPs and 504s and SSTs. There could be 50 distinct types of teachers, occupational therapists, speech pathologists, teachers with varying credentials. There could be 100 course types with 700 sections that have to be individually scheduled. There's unique facility constraints in every school that determine what they can do. On top of that, you're looking at 1,000 students with unique course requirements. You have to figure out how to schedule. You have teacher seniority to think about, how you're going to pair your junior and senior teachers. You're thinking about union rules around how many courses in a row a teacher can teach. You're thinking about all these things and more, and that's before you get to the pedagogy. Now you're asking, should our classrooms be heterogeneous or homogeneous? Should we be tracking and how much? And all of those decisions go into a thing called the master schedule. Every single school in the entire country, regardless if they're progressive or traditional, if they're elementary, middle, or high, if they're a public district school, a charter, or a private school, goes through this process. They start between January and March. It lasts 4 to 6 months and takes hundreds of hours to do. It is one of the most time-consuming things that school administration has to do. And the challenge is they just simply don't have the tools to manage that kind of complexity. Their student information systems handle a fraction of what's needed. And so the majority of them are hacking solutions with literally spreadsheets, magnet boards, and sticky notes. So right now, we have a dozen pilot schools across the country using our software. But I want to talk about 2 just so you can see how all schools are doing this. Upper St. Clair is a traditional high school in Pittsburgh. The Charter School of Cambridge is a progressive charter school in Boston. They're very different pedagogically. They have very, very different, one's very personalized, one's very traditional, and yet they both go through the same process, literally sticky notes and spreadsheets, doing this incredibly complex process that prevents them from moving forward. The master schedule is the blueprint of the school, and if you want to change schools, you have to get through the master schedule. Now, the challenge is, not only are we missing a piece of software called master scheduling, we're missing a suite of software because master scheduling is impacted by and impacts so many things. The district has an impact in terms of their shared resources and allocation. There's day-to-day management of the specialists and substitutes and people coming and going. There's the student piece of this. They do course requests and academic programming. And then there's the master schedule itself, which decides where everybody goes. And there are literally no tools here that are helping schools do this. But there's a further problem that's preventing schools from moving forward. The current systems that they have, the student information system, simply can't represent the richness of what's really happening in these schools. In fact, student information systems at their core only know really about a thing called a class, with one teacher, a static set of students, and one course. That's not how schools work anymore. Every day there's different things happening. A single class could have multiple subjects and multiple teachers and students moving in and out of those classrooms. And because of that, these student information systems and schools don't actually have visibility into what's happening. And that actually has a huge impact on third parties. You probably didn't know this, but you can't ask a student information system, where is a particular student at a particular time at a particular day? You can't ask, who's the next teacher that student's going to see? they don't know it. And so we've already begun talking to a number of third parties who are interested in getting an accurate representation of what's going on in that school. And so as I said, our first product we're releasing is around master scheduling. This is where you're literally figuring out capacity and class composition, all of those modeling things. First, we're saving a ton of time. Principals are spending hundreds of hours on this every year. We can cut that down a lot. Second of all, this process is all about trade-offs. What you do for your AP kids may negatively impact the students who have more needs. So we want to help them be able to visualize those trade-offs and make better decisions for their students. And finally, as it relates to our mission, we want them to see what they can accomplish if they adopt new models, whether that's a personalized learning model, a project-based learning model, flipped classrooms. All of these require changes to the master schedule. And if a principal can't see how to do it with their resources, they won't even try it. But master scheduling doesn't stop when the school year starts. It really just begins the day-to-day process of managing how students and teachers are moving around. And once you can begin to move the pieces more frequently, you can begin to respond to student needs more than just once a year. Now, as I said, we're piloting with a dozen schools, but our go-to-market strategy is essentially to sell a series of apps on top of our platform, each of them relatively low cost, making money essentially on the upsell of those. We're piloting with these schools. We're getting a lot of great feedback, but we're launching this new category, dynamic school scheduling, as well as our first software at the National Principals Conference this July. So again, you've probably never heard of this. You're going to hear a lot more about it. If you want to learn more about us or this category, you can talk to us after this, or we're going to be demoing at 3 p.m. in Tomorrowland. Thank you very much.